Welcome to Michelle's Making. Hope you're ready for coffee, crafts, cookies, and cocktails. Let's get going.
Welcome and welcome back to those of you who are returning. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to all my subscribers out there. Today is a very special week for me. It is week 52. This channel has been going strong for 1 full year. I do appreciate those of you who have been sticking with me and sharing with your family and friends. It's National Chicken Soup for the Soul Day, Pizza with the Works but Hold the Anchovies, and French Dip Day. There's some yummy, great for the fall weather food. Let's make it a great one and get going.
Today we're going to make a delicious New York style cheesecake. A lot of people shy away from making something like this thinking it's difficult and complicated. Like every recipe, you just follow the steps. You're going to start out by buttering your springform pan, and you'll also line it with 2 layers of heavy-duty aluminum foil. And when I say line it, I mean line the outside of the pan, because that's going to protect your cheesecake while it's baking, because this cheesecake bakes in a water bath. And that means you're going to put your pan in another larger pan and fill it with water while it's baking. As you'll see that as we go along here. Don't worry, this recipe I have linked in the description box, so read it through and be brave, give it a try. Make sure the second pan that you're going to set this in is large enough that you have about at least an inch clearance around all sides of the pan. Next, you're going to mix and blend your eggs and sour cream together. For cheesecake, one of the most important things to remember is all your ingredients should be at room temperature. You don't want anything to be chilled fresh out of the refrigerator. You want it to have sat at room temperature. So mix your eggs and your sour cream together until it's light and fluffy. After this is well mixed, add in your sugar, cornstarch, vanilla, lemon juice, and lemon zest. Continue to mix well. If you don't care for the taste of lemon, you could omit the lemon juice and the lemon zest. My granddaughter said this really tasted lemony to her. I could barely taste it. If your taste buds are sensitive to lemon, you could omit it or cut it in half. Once this is well blended and creamy, set it aside. You're going to blend your butter and cream cheese together in a separate bowl. Again, everything at room temperature, and mix this until it is light and fluffy. Once it's light and fluffy, add it into your larger bowl in the stand mixer and continue to mix everything until it is well blended and again light and fluffy. You'll pour this mixture into your prepared springform pan and place your pan in the larger pan and fill it with steaming, boiling hot water before placing it in the oven. If you're uncomfortable moving the pan around, set it inside the oven on the rack and pour your hot water in and then bake in the oven at 300 degrees. When you've removed it, be very careful. That water is hot when you remove your cheesecake from the pan. I cut the foil to get it off easily. But there you have it, our delicious New York style cheesecake. Our first craft today is a tall hat gnome. I made this gnome using things I had already in my stash. A microfiber cloth from the auto department at Dollar Tree, a gallon jug of vinegar, and I wrapped the jug with the microfiber cloth. Now, I did not include the bottom of the jug because I wanted it to lay or sit level on the table, but I did make sure that the cloth went all the way down to the bottom, and then just glued it along the edge. For the top portion, I pulled it tight and used a wire tie around the top. You'll see that a little further on, but I just continued stretching a little bit and gluing. I tied it off with the wire tie, the zip tie, but I pulled it a little too tight, so I did change it out later because I wanted to be able to have a little space in the middle when I attach the hat, as you'll see. But the idea is the same, just pulling it tight with the zip tie. For the nose on this gnome, I used an eyeball from the Halloween candy. My granddaughter had been trick-or-treating, and I found this in her trick-or-treat basket, and I thought, oh, this is perfect for a gnome nose, and she didn't really want it. She's a little old for this kind of stuff. So I took it and I painted it flesh tone. For the beard, I had a piece of furry white cloth, and I just sort of sized it out how long I needed the piece to be. And once I cut out the square, I folded it over and kind of formed the shape of a beard, pointed at one end and wider at the top. For the hat on this gnome, I had a piece of knitted material that I had picked up at Goodwill for I think 25 cents. I wasn't sure what I'd ever use it for. It's been in my stash for a while, but I thought this would be perfect. It was exactly the right width or length to go around the jug. I decided I would glue it first before cutting it so that it wouldn't unravel before I could get it glued. And after I glued it, and I cut it, I added actually some more glue to that seam to really seal it well before turning it inside out or right side out. Just be sure if you try something like this, be very careful with the hot glue. It's so easy to burn yourself. Once the glue had dried, I turned the hat right side out. Next, I used a dowel stick to give the hat a little bit of form and keep it standing up rather than flopping over. I just glued the dowel stick to the seam of the hat in the back. And that's kind of why I needed the opening at the top of the jug. When I was going to glue the hat on, I wanted some glue in the center there to stick the dowel rod, again, to give it a little form. Before attaching the hat, I did glue the beard on. As you can see, it wasn't glued on, it was just setting up against, but it seemed to stick to that fiber cloth. Here I put the hot glue into the center of the fiber cloth so that I could set the stick there when I was attaching the hat. Now it's time to attach the nose, and I'm going to just tuck it under the edge of the hat. Next, a little bit of glue on top of the nose to attach the hat so that the nose is just peeking out. And then, of course, securing the hat all the way around the gnome. This gnome is going to get just a little bit of embellishment on the edge of his hat. I'm going to use one of these tags that I picked up at Hobby Lobby for a pack of 3, and it was 40% off, I believe. So I think they were about $1. It worked out to be about $1 a piece. I think it was $3 for the package. I glued the little tag to a button, and then I adhered a little resin acorn that I had on top of the button and glued that on the edge of his hat, and there you have it. That's our tall hat gnome. Well, we're coming up that holiday season. It's time to do some Christmas crafts also. And I made this Christmas frame that I absolutely love. I had a frame. I already had it in my stash. Again, starting to try to use up some of the things I already have. Removed the little clips on the back that held in the glass and the mat, and also moved the hanger from the horizontal to the vertical spot because I wanted to hang it long ways. I'm going to be incorporating a lot of red this year, but for this, I used the 3 clear ornaments out of this pack of ornaments I picked up at Big Lots. And from Dollar Tree, I had gotten some fake snow. It's a kind of a glittery snow, but I thought it would look perfect in these clear bulbs. I made a cone out of a piece of printer paper and put the glitter into the ornaments. I say glitter, the snow, or whatever you want to call it. It was pretty glittery to be just snow, but it looked good inside the ornament. So I did that for all 3 and cut off the hanger that was on it because I'm going to use this black ribbon to hang it from the picture frame. I played around a little bit with them to see how I was going to hang them. I wasn't sure if I was going to do one shorter and the other 2 the same length, but in the end I opted to go with all 3 different lengths. Once I had them in place, I used my staple gun to secure the ribbon to the back of the frame. Next, I had this joy ornament that also came from Dollar Tree. I removed the hanger, and at first I wasn't sure if I would leave the greenery or remove that. In the end, I decided to remove it. When I removed the greenery, it left a little hole that was, I don't know, maybe some people wouldn't have worried about the hole, but things like that sometimes bother me. So I just filled it in with a little bit of spackling putty and then used a little bit of paint to kind of blend it in a little with the wood around the joy. And I hot glued this to the bottom corner of the frame. Next, I'm going to make a bow for the upper corner on the frame. This black grain ribbon, I actually got it was wrapped around a tablecloth I had purchased that I saved it because the ribbon was pretty nice. And I just cut off the little Velcro things. And of course, I'm saving those because you never know when they might come in handy. But I was going to use 3 ribbons. This black, a larger black and white black and red checked ribbon, and then a smaller black and red checked ribbon. The black will be in the middle. So you'll see here, I began by making my loops, playing around with the black, and I wasn't sure how big I was going to make them. So that was the first thing I was trying to figure out, what size they needed to be. And I ended up actually cutting the ribbons in half. So I had 4 pieces of the black. So I decided to do the larger black and red check underneath that and make that with 4 loops, as you'll see here. And then I'll do the same thing with the smaller black and red checked, and that'll be in the front. For the front, you always want to, your last piece, the center of your bow, you want to leave something to make a little loop in the center. So I start out with doing that before I do my loops back and forth. Again, 4 loops back and forth on that. And use my handy dandy pink clips from Dollar Tree to help hold the red and black check ribbons together. The grosgrain sat pretty good on its own, but the others needed something to hold them together while I was working on this, as you'll see. And fortunately for this, I remembered to make my tails before attaching my wire tie or zip tie to the center of the bow. I was pretty proud that I remembered that because I've often forgotten to put my tail in before closing the zip tie. With wired ribbon, it's sometimes easier to cinch it tight if you cut notches through the wire. So I did do that with the red and black checked ribbons because they were wired. I didn't cut through on the grosgrain, although I could have. It worked out okay. Sometimes it's a little tricky when you've got a really thick bow, which this ended up being a pretty good thick bow, which is what I was going for in the way of looks. So you'll see here as I was going along with it, most of it is kind of self-explanatory as you see me doing it. But if you have any questions, just leave a comment. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Let me know in the comments also the kind of bows that you like to make or that you have the most success with. I did use a little strip of hot glue on each of the black ribbons to glue them together to form a loop. I dovetailed the end of my tails to give them that finished, polished look. And remember that cardinal rule to bow making: fluff that ribbon. Every good bow needs a good fluffing. I used hot glue to adhere the bow to the upper corner on the frame. And then I also put a little dab of glue under each of the tails to give it a little extra support. But then I decided after gluing it, I'm just going to put a staple in there with my staple gun just to give it a little extra strength to hold that bow, because it was a hefty bow and it had some weight to it. I really love how this has turned out, and I can't wait to find a place to hang it when I'm putting my decorations up this year. There you have it, our Christmas frame. And now it's time for that adult beverage, a green apple martini for me today. I used sour apple triple sec, apple flavored vodka for this. And don't forget that the recipe will always be in the description box. But you mix all your ingredients over ice while your glass is chilling, and you're going to shake, shake, shake until your drink is well chilled. You'll pour it into your chilled glass, and the only thing left is to enjoy a green apple martini.
That's it for another week. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to take time to stop and smell the coffee. Make it a great one, and I'll see you next Friday.